Oh, there we go. We're up. All right. Good evening, whoever is here already. And apologies for starting late. My computer got stuck trying to go live. So it looks like we're live now. And feel free to comment. Let me know you're here. And welcome again to anybody jumping on tonight. First time live streaming here. So let me know if you can hear audio okay, if picture is okay. It's probably a grainy picture because I'm just using my laptop camera. So just wondering how everything is on that end. Hey, Rob. And just wondering how sensitive the mic is on my laptop. Wondering if you can hear the crickets and katydids outside the door here. And hello again to anybody else jumping in. Looks like there's only a couple of us here trying out the live stream for the first time. Just a nice, peaceful evening here and listening to the crickets and katydids outside. Wondering what everybody's up to, and maybe we'll get into a couple things if anybody wants to chat or has questions. Maybe some updates, things like that. Nothing real solid planned here, just trying this thing out. Wondering how the audio and video are on the other end there, on your guys' end. If you have any feedback on that, I appreciate it. Wait and see if anybody else pops on and maybe we could chat about some stuff. Let me know if you have any questions or feedback to start. Hey, Leanne. How's things way up north? I know somebody that's going to be maybe up in that neck of the woods in the next couple of weeks. I can tell you about that later. Ooh, apples. Processing apples. I wish I was processing apples, kind of. Wish I had apples on my trees. That was one thing I was going to bring up tonight. If anybody out there has advice on growing your own apples, because we have apple trees, and I'm trying to think of how long we've had those. Maybe 4 or 5 years, I'm thinking, and we don't get apples. I don't even think our apple trees blossomed this year, honestly. Not sure what happened there, but nice if we could get our own. The peaches didn't really do anything either. The peach tree usually blossoms beautifully, but it didn't this year. Um, Something about polar vortex last winter. Farmers are saying really did a number on the peach trees. So we do, however, have our very first hazelnuts growing. We bought some hazelnut trees. They look more like bushes than trees, but anyway, we bought those a few years ago too, and I noticed some hazelnuts growing on those. Not a ton, just a few, but that's exciting. Never had nut trees before. And just wondering how sensitive the mic is on my laptop. I wonder if you guys can hear anything. I'm sitting by the front door here. Just the occasional vehicle drives by, and of course the crickets and katydids are going bananas out there. So that seems noisy to me, but I don't know if that comes through on here at all. Okay, so you can only hear me, no picture. You get a picture? You get a picture? Video come through on yours? Okay. All right, so mixed feedback on the video of this. Got somebody in the house too that's. Oh, you can't hear the bugs. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Glad the camera works. And I guess that's nice that you can't hear the bugs. I don't know. Some people enjoy that, but man, they've been loud this year too. I don't remember the katydids being this loud before. Seems like there's a lot. And hello, Eastwind Farms. Thanks for stopping in. Just kind of chit chat at this point, trying to get some feedback on how this all comes through. It looks really fuzzy on my screen, the video, so I think it's just not a good quality camera, but seems like everything's otherwise working well. Not a whole lot going on around here at the moment. Pretty quiet. Some of the family's not here, some of them's here, and they're just chilling, so. Fine. Yeah, internet speed, I'm not too sure about. I was trying to do this whole setup wire through the router wirelessly, and my connection speed was just terrible. So I am directly hooked into the internet cord here, whatever you call that, and it's a lot better. But mm, I have a hunch maybe it's the camera. But yeah, whatever works. I don't care being a little fuzzy. That's all right, as long as I'm not furry. Hey Scott, how's it going? Glad you could stop in. How's the fishing up there? We all look better fuzzy. Oh, maybe. I don't know. As I get older, maybe I'll get a few. So I was kind of throwing the wanting advice out there a few minutes ago. Any of you that are just stopping in know anything about how to get your apple trees to blossom and grow some apples? Let me know because we're having trouble with that here. We had a harder winter last year than normal, like colder. So it didn't. Our apple trees didn't blossom. They've never. Well, I say one of our trees gave us two little apples this big a couple of years ago. That's all we've ever gotten since we got them a few years ago. So any tips would be appreciated. So trying to get caught up on stuff around the house. Good. What state? We're in Michigan. So apples generally do very well in Michigan, especially West Michigan. The climate here is excellent for growing fruit, not just apples, but cherries and peaches and lots of tree fruits do really well in this area, except my backyard. Haven't figured that out yet. We've tried putting like fruit tree fertilizer out there, and that didn't seem to make any difference. Of course, a couple of the trees are getting nibbled on by the deer, but I don't think it's severe enough that it should really affect that. We have tried pruning the trees, and we've tried not pruning the trees, and that didn't seem to make much difference. Not really sure what else to try except just hoping next year is better. Keep looking into that. Be nice to have some apples growing. We did have peaches last year. We got a decent number of peaches on our tree. We trimmed the suckers off. Yeah, we've kind of tried that. Of course, this last season, I didn't do any pruning at all. Just kind of seeing what would happen if we didn't do anything with the trees and just let them grow how they wanted to. So find the apple trees are on a 2-year plan. 1 year tons of apples and nothing or very little the next year. Okay, that's good to know. Doesn't surprise me, I guess. I've heard that about some trees. Oak trees tend to be that way with acorns, I think. They have years where they just go bananas. And I don't remember how many years ago that was. We got the 2 baby apples on the tree, but I think we're overdue for if it's a 2-year plan, we're overdue for sure. I drive by orchards up this way, and uh, they start out with pretty small trees, and they get decent sized apples on those little trees. So I don't think it's a size issue as far as how big the tree is. I don't know. So that was little trees on the weekend. Yeah, I've been seeing posts from the Weekend Homestead on Facebook with their apple trees and their apple harvest, and it looks great. Kind of jealous. Maybe ask MSU Extension office. Yeah, I could definitely do that. They probably would have some tips for me as well. They're usually quite helpful and eager to answer questions. Yeah, professional orchards. Yeah, they that's That's what they do. That's their expertise. Yeah. I suppose maybe if I tried full time to get some apples to grow, maybe I'd get something. But I have a little bit more easygoing approach to it than that. So same with my garden. Who's got a garden that's doing well, and who's got a garden that's full of weeds this year? Mine's full of weeds. Maybe soil test around the trees. Yeah, I thought of that too. The soil around here is very sandy. Like you go down 6 inches or so, and you're hitting beach sand, kind of that golden sand. There's not much to it. That's why we put the fertilizer out there, thinking that maybe that would help supplement. But yeah, soil test should go on the list. That's going on my list right now. In MSU extension. A few pots of veggies, but the bugs got it all. Uh-oh. So you do rustic traditions homestead. You'd probably do container gardening, maybe. We haven't done much of that here, but a couple of years ago we got some container gardening started for my in-laws just as a gift for like Mother's Day and Father's Day. We just used a couple of 5-gallon buckets and made some drainage holes and planted some stuff in there that they liked, and that went over pretty good. It's a real bummer when the bugs get it, and those can be hard to take care of too, depending on the bugs and whatnot. Yeah, the apple cycle tree, apple tree cycle. Yeah, big pots. It's our first year for planting. So, what did you grow in your pots? I'm curious. I've seen tomato plants do really well in container gardening. Three Sisters Gardens. I've seen posts about doing potatoes in pots too, but you have to have a certain kind of potato for that. Did tomatoes too, and they died. Oh, that's too bad. My tomatoes usually do okay, but sometimes the chipmunks get at them and they'll eat like a few bites and then leave the rest. That's not very appreciated. Sometimes we'll get, I think it's called blossom rot, where the first tomatoes that come onto the plant, they'll rot kind of from the bottom up. That's a bummer too. But usually the tomatoes that come on after that are better. There's one year I didn't really want to part with my pepper plants that I had outside, and I brought them inside and put them in pots in the house, and they kind of went dormant. I trimmed them, like cut them way back until they're just basically a couple of twigs sticking out of the pot, and just kept them watered occasionally so it didn't completely die. And they did grow leaves back on them, and I probably could have. I don't remember if I planted those again or not, but interesting what you can do with plants in pots, even over winter. Don't have chipmunks, just gray squirrels. Do your squirrels behave themselves or they get into stuff too? We have a few squirrels around here, but they don't usually get into much. If I put out a bird feeder with bird seed in it, they'll come up for that, but they tend to leave garden stuff alone, which is good. Quite a few tomatoes this year, but I'm still waiting for them to ripen. I'm making lots of green salsa. Oh, green salsa is not a bad idea. Any kind of salsa is not a bad idea. I always thought it was hard waiting for the tomatoes to ripen. You get them picked and set them all on a table with newspaper and try to do stuff with them as they ripen. pH in each soil, and to get away from the blossom end rot, you need to add lime. Yeah, I've heard that for the blossom rot. Just never got around to adding lime. I just waited for the second round of tomatoes to come on. pH in your soil. I'll definitely have to do a soil test and see what that shows us. It'll probably say that there's absolutely nothing in the dirt except sand. Seems to me we put some manure around the bases of our fruit trees a couple of years ago too. Maybe we didn't put enough around there because usually when we get manure on stuff, it just goes bonkers and grows great. But that time it didn't. Garden's Live catalog is a good resource to use for organic fertilizers. Oh, that's a good tip. I'll have to look at that. I'm assuming they have an online catalog as well, or do you get just a regular paper catalog? I don't mind a paper catalog. Especially the seed catalogs. Those are fun to look at. I was thinking of doing an update soon on the elderflower cordial that I made. Maybe you saw that video where, well, I've made cordial a few times, mentioned it on the channel, and usually with fruit. This year I tried it with elderflowers. So when the elderberry bushes were in blossom or in bloom or whatever, I used some of the flowers from that to make some cordial. And I haven't tested it yet. We're right around the time where it's been sitting in the jars long enough. We could try that very soon, or maybe even tonight. I don't know if anybody's interested in that, but okay, yeah, I'll definitely look into that. See what I can find out. So, yeah, with the cordial, I made 2 jars of it, and one of them is different in that it has cardamom in it, and which always smells really nice. I just wondered if the nice smell will translate into nice cordial. So we'll see on that. Did you try canning plums? No, I haven't. I'd like to sometime. I know you said it was really easy. I remember seeing that you posted that. Do you take the pits out before you can them? I don't remember how you did that. Seems to me when we do peaches, we slice those in half and take the pits out. But plums are smaller, probably more hassle to deal with the pits. So, is there a certain kind of plum that you use when you can them? A certain variety, maybe? I'm curious how soft they get after they've been canned. Got another one coming home at the moment. A few years ago, I did make some plum jam though, and that was good. And we actually got the plums from a local grocery store for free because they happen to have, I think it's probably an ornamental plum tree in their parking lot. And I drove by it one day and saw all the plums hanging off it, and I thought, oh, well, let's get some of those plums. Nobody's doing anything with this tree. It's just in a parking lot. So we went and picked some of those plums and made some jam. It was really good. Nice and tart and sweet. Made some elderberry jam this year for the first time too. That was pretty good. Is pretty good, I should say. It's not all gone yet. Nice combination of sweet and tart as well. Not as tart as plums though, of course. And just out of curiosity, heading into the fall season, are there recipes that you guys pull out of the recipe box when it starts getting chilly out? Any special family recipes or just things that you tend to make when the weather gets cold? Favorite recipes or anything like that? I tend to want to make chili or soups when it gets cold out. Nothing fancy, just warm comfort food. Pumpkin soup, yeah, that's good stuff. I've made it with what's that squash? Butternut squash. Butternut squash soup is good too. Now, do you make pumpkin soup so that it's like chunks of pumpkin in there, or is it like a pureed soup? I'm curious. The one that I do with butternut squash is more of a blended, like pureed soup, and it's, I guess, similar to the one. I don't know if any of you go to Panera Bread, but they have an autumn squash soup, and the one that I make is similar to that. I have had pumpkin stew before, where it's more chunks of pumpkin and I think sausage and other vegetables in there. Kind of a vegetable soup. Puree, lots of garlic and onion. Yes, that's a must in pumpkin or squash soup. You got to have the garlic and onion in there. Need to poke some holes in the plum. Leave the stone in. Just wash the plums. Poke the holes. Drop in jars. Fill with water. Sugar syrup. Cover with water bath. 20 minutes. Hey, that sounds pretty simple. And I'm assuming the skins on the plums soften and they're not too tough to chew when they're canned. I know sometimes when tomato skins get in stuff that's canned, the skins are kind of, ugh. Yes, okay. I'm gonna have to try that. We have a nice farmer's market not too far from here. I'm sure I'd be able to get some plums down there. I have a squash casserole that I like to make too, which tends to be more of a late summer kind of a thing because it takes zucchini and yellow summer squash. That's really good. It's got, I think, cream soup in it, like cream of mushroom soup, and like the boxed stuffing mix. Not the healthiest stuff for you, but it sure tastes good. Mix that stuff together and with some cheese and bake it. That's pretty good. It's a good late summer, early fall thing I like to make. I made it in the crock pot before too, and that came out really good. Did it for potluck. Got some good reviews on that. Hopefully nobody's getting any buffering going on in the video. I tried to set this up. There's a couple different ways you can set up a live stream, and the other way, which I prefer because it looks better, was a lot harder than I expected, and probably would have caused some buffering issues. So I just stuck with the regular old live stream with the camera. So seems to be going good. Everything pumpkin. Like, are you into pumpkin spice too? I like to add that to stuff. Your butternut squash, do you keep some whole and save them to have in winter? Yes, I try to. Now, I didn't grow any this year, but when I do grow it, it tends to grow really well, and it's nice to try to keep some of that for later on. I just don't have a very good spot to keep it because if you keep it in the house, it's too warm and it gets moldy and rotten. If I keep it in the garage, it's good for a little while until it starts freezing out there, and then it's not the greatest after it's been frozen either. So I almost have to process it somehow and save it that way. Not crazy about pumpkin spice. Not a big fan of cloves or nutmeg. Yeah, cloves can be kind of strong in some stuff. I like to put pumpkin spice in hot apple cider, just a little bit. A little bit of pumpkin spice and a little pinch of sugar. That's pretty good. I was thinking about setting up the live stream out back, actually outside, with the bonfire going, but it's darker outside right now than I thought it was going to be. So didn't do that. Maybe in the future I'll figure that out. I'd have to string some cords out there because my laptop can't hold a charge. But thought that would be fun to sit by a bonfire for a live stream. I do have a fake fireplace behind me. We could turn that on sometime too. You can go in yours. Is it too early to talk about Christmas stuff? Some people go a little bit berserk if you talk about Christmas too early. Our family likes to draw names. My husband and kids, we all draw names for each other to make a homemade Christmas gift. We're going to be drawing names here pretty soon, so we have plenty of time to come up with our gifts for Christmas. So that's about the most planning ahead I do for Christmas is getting that going. Freeze it in boxes, warm up later. That's a good idea. Yeah, just baking it. That's probably the easiest, I think. The easiest way to prepare squash is just cut it in half and bake it. There's really nothing to it. I thought about canning it too, but it's not really recommended to can it after it's been cooked for some reason. I guess inconsistencies in the texture. I have read that you can cube it before it's cooked and can it, but it seems like cutting up a squash when it's not cooked, gosh, that would be, I think that'd be a lot of work getting it peeled and chopped up. It's hard enough cutting it in half when it's raw like that. But yeah, cutting it in half and baking it and just freezing the cooked stuff was a good way to go, I think. And you can kind of plan out portion sizes or how much you need for to go with a meal and just freeze it in those amounts. Save the seeds on a paper plate for planting next year. Yes, I definitely do that. In fact, I put them on wax paper, and then once they dry, I just fold up the wax paper and stick it in a little baggie, and it's good to go. I've had pretty good luck saving seeds. There's one year that I think I had planted pumpkins and acorn squash kind of next to each other, and they cross pollinated. And I saved the seeds from some of those, and they came out kind of a cross between a pumpkin and an acorn squash. So it's kind of shaped like a pumpkin, but colored more like an acorn squash. It was interesting, but kind of cool. My favorites are probably acorn squash and butternut, but we have grown spaghetti squash, and that's fun to cook too. You cut that in half and bake it until it's done, and then kind of shred it with a fork so it looks like spaghetti. And then you put stuff in it like cherry tomatoes or some cheese or some pepperoni or stuff like that, peppers, and then put it back in the oven and until the cheese is brown. And that's really good. That's a good fall treat. I could probably sit down and eat a whole acorn squash just by myself. Those are super good. Bake it, put some butter in it, some salt. That's all you need. Anybody put away stuff in a root cellar? I don't hear very many people talking about root cellars. Not sure it's a very popular thing anymore, but I'm kind of always curious about that. We've talked about putting one in here, but not sure if it's really practical or not at this point. I guess it depends on how much produce you have to save, and if you don't have the space elsewhere to store it. A few years ago, we saw an idea where you could put a refrigerator into the ground, kind of laid down in there on its back, so that when you open the door, it's kind of like a trap door or cellar door, and you could keep stuff in there like a root cellar. But that did not work very well. It ended up kind of icky and moldy in there, despite having ventilation in there. We could have a root cellar here in Florida. Our water table is, oh yeah, water table in Florida is probably terrible for anything like that. There's probably no basements really down there, right? Finding the coolest place in your basement. That's where you keep the squash. Oh, we don't have a basement. I really wish that we did, and we've wanted a basement for a long time. We've even thought about, putting a basement under our house, but that's just too expensive to be practical. We do have a crawl space, a decent sized crawl space, but we don't have good access to it. Especially if we were to keep things down there during the winter, it'd be really hard to get to it because you have to go outside in order to get to it. So, I mean, the space down there would be ample for that and probably the right temperature, but just not practical getting down there. Um, no basements here. Would be a swimming pool, probably so. Swimming pool under your house, probably not a very good idea. Now, we have a pretty full house now. I imagine a few years down the road, once the kids are grown and moved out, we do have one of the bedrooms in the house is situated so that in the winter it stays pretty cool in there if you keep it closed off. I imagine that'd be a good place to have something stored, canned goods or like home canned stuff, and maybe some bins with veggies in it. Maybe. Kind of curious how the honeybee situation is around the country. I don't know if you guys have bees or no beekeepers in your area. Wondering um, how things are going with bees everywhere. We don't have bees currently. They did not make it through last winter, and we did not put in an order for more bees in the spring. We may do that this next spring. I really do enjoy having the bees here, and it's of course good to get honey, but gotta run. So good night, Scott. Thanks for stopping in. Tell everybody hello way over there. We're dwindling down a little bit here. I was kind of planning on going no longer than an hour, so been 40-ish minutes in here, and appreciate everybody stopping in to test this out with me for the first time. It'd be nice to maybe do a regular live stream. Let me know what you think. I don't know, maybe once a month. I don't know. Seems to be going all right. It's easy enough to do, I guess. I've seen other live streams where they do different stuff. Be nice to be able to play music, but I don't know how to do that without getting around copyright issues. So, yeah, let me know if you guys have any suggestions for anything coming up, or we should do more live streaming in the future. If we should go outside by the bonfire and have live stream. Lives are fun. I agree. There are just a small few that I watch from time to time, but it's always fun. It seems like you're you get to hang out with people and whatnot. Of course, the more the merrier, but it's nice even with a few people. Time to get the kiddos to bed. Nice chatting. Tell your crew hello. Will do. We'll talk to you guys soon. Good night to Leanne and everybody up there, all the littles. Good night, guys. I've got some video projects coming up here to be putting up. One is kind of a different one. Not going to spill the beans on it or anything, but something a little bit different for just for fun. And good night, Rustic Traditions Homestead. Hope to see you guys again soon. Thanks for stopping by. And it looks like maybe we'll wrap this up here. And as usual, thanks for stopping in and watching and commenting and chatting with me tonight. And if you'd like to follow more, I'm on Facebook. I try to be on Instagram sometimes. Facebook is a good way to connect as well, or email. Yeah, so I guess we'll probably close it down for tonight. And we'll see you guys later. Have a good night and a good weekend.